Good morning and thanks for joining us on the Friday edition of TVC Breakfast. I'm Veronica Dan Ikboy and I'm not doing this alone. I have my co-hosts here, Sam Omashe and Mike Okwache. Good morning, gentlemen. It's good to be here this Friday.
Yeah,
where a lot of persons, dignitaries are mourning the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, one of the longest serving monarch the British community has
the longest serving.
The longest serving.
The longest serving
in the history
of
Britain. And probably in the history of recorded history other than that of the departed king of in Thailand. Yes, and no matter what happens, death is inevitable, as we all know. Yesterday, it was obvious from the pageant, it's a quite pageant of family towards Balmoral, that the inevitable was happening. What the poet Coleridge said, anticipation is more potent than surprise. That you know it's going to happen, but even after it happens, it's even more potent because you're expecting it than when it is surprise, it just takes you unaware. So that's why I say anticipation is more potent than surprise. And so that's what we see with the king. You know, whether you're a man, you are in the big castle, death still touches you. Right. You know, just as the poet Shirley said, he said, death lays his hands on kings and scepters and crowns must tumble down. And so that's what happened in his case. The Bible itself said, it said, what man is he that liveth and shall not see death? Shall he deliver his soul from the hand of the grave? You know, so these are the things that will always happen. And Shakespeare said, he said, we should not worry about death, and whatever the case, death, a necessary end must come when it must come. But we don't want it to happen, but when it happens, it comes. The Bible says, death, where is their sting? We are not in that place yet. We can feel the sting everywhere, everybody going to more. And those people who don't have much respect for the monarchy. You know, personally, as far as the monarchy is concerned, I'm not a great fan of the monarchy. Right. Because for me, the monarchy itself reminds me of the age of slavery. That the monarchy today created through what they call the Duke of York, who became James II. Actually, those were the people who came to Africa and took hordes and hordes of people from Africa. They created the African Trading Company, took our people all the way to the Americas, and so on. They made money. The wealth of Britain today, what you call the breakfast, what's called continental breakfast in Europe and all of this, was created because of sugar. And who did the sugar? The black people, mostly from West Africa. We created the wealth in Europe. We created, as John Defoe, Daniel Defoe, who wrote the pioneer novel, Robinson Crusoe, who also told the story of slavery, and racism, and so on. He said, without the African, there is no trade, there is no Negro. Without Negro, there is no island. Without island, there is no Americas. Without America, there is no trade. He said it. He said it. I can get the full quote here, but that's what he said. In other words, without the black man's blood, there's no United States of America. There's no Canada. There's no sugar. There's no plantation. There's no English breakfast.
All right.
It's quite deep. The point there is, those who don't understand history or who haven't studied history, not history in the context of the course, but reading up on some of those things,
would not
understand. If you read the book by Walter Rodney, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, it puts everything very vividly
into perspective.
How things are. But keeping that aside, the Queen has he passed on peacefully in the African African context. He has gone to join her ancestors, and she is an ancestor from yesterday.
Yes,
it's quite interesting. And another very interesting thing is that yesterday the Operation London Bridge was activated.
Yes.
Now, the way it was simulated, the passing on of the Queen was simulated several years before now, where it was even recorded, packaged in a document.
No, in fact, happens immediately a king or a queen dies. The preparation for the death begins.
So it's quite interesting that there's order, there's coordination, there is everybody understands what the issue is, how it's going to be, where he'll be taken to, on what day, you know, and it's beautiful. You know, it's coordinated. It tells you that's governance in its real form, right?
Yes. I should not forget,
and it's order.
Yes, I should not forget that this queen saw 15 prime ministers.
Yes. Absolutely, yes.
4 U.S. presidents, and went through 14, and she's living a vociferous country, divided country, a country also in some kind of economic turmoil, and the family itself was an epic, almost a Shakespearean story of love and loss, of royal intrigues and royal romances and so on. I mean, the king, what do you call it? We had the story of Diana and Prince Charles, who's now King Charles III. We had the story of Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, who at one time was even seen topless and was entwined with an American business mogul, you know. And we have that of Anne, you know, Anne and is it Mike Phillips and so on, who separated. And then we have, of course, Merkel and the boy who at the beginning was rudderless, because I think was still trying to come to terms with the death of the mother. Was even seen in some parties and so on. So there's so much,
so much to be said.
We'll discuss this later.
Absolutely. Let's give you some news update at this time. I will begin in Britain, a nation in mourning after the death of Queen Elizabeth II at the age of 96. Buckingham Palace announced shortly yesterday at around 6:30 p.m. that the monarch had died peacefully at her summer home, Balmoral, in Scotland. Her son and heir has ascended the throne and will be known as King Charles III. His wife Camilla is the Queen Consort. The Union Jack is flying at half-mast and a 10-day period of mourning has been announced. And the new King of England, Charles III, has led tributes to his mother in his words, quote, "We mourn profoundly the passing of a cherished sovereign and a much-loved mother. I know her loss will be deeply felt throughout the country, the realms, and the Commonwealth, and by countless people around the world." And the death of Queen Elizabeth II has generated reactions from all parts of the world. In the words of British Prime Minister Liz Truss, it's, quote, "the passing of the second Elizabethan age," end of quote. For President Joe Biden, the 96-year-old monarch charmed everyone with her wit, moved with her kindness. French President Emmanuel Macron says the Queen will be remembered as a friend of France and a kind-hearted queen. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz also paid tribute to the longest-serving monarch. In his words, she will be missed, not least her wonderful humor. Her service to Canadians was also acknowledged by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The PM, Trudeau, says her efforts will forever remain an important part of the country's history. And presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, says the United Kingdom has lost one of its greatest ever monarch, while the world has lost a much cherished, revered, and admired icon. Her energy, dedication, deep sense of duty, and firm belief in the glory of the United Kingdom, particularly in the most troubled times of her long and distinguished reign, are the lasting legacies for which she shall always be remembered. He added that the first British monarch to reach 7 decades on the throne, a patriotic role birthed and sustained warm and enduring friendship between the United Kingdom and Nigeria. The APC's presidential candidate consoles with the family and wishes that the Queen's rest that the Queen rest in eternal peace. And talking politics now, wife of the presidential candidate of the ruling All Progressive Congress, Senator Remi Tinubu, has met with the party's National Working Committee to fine-tune the campaign strategy for the women's wing of the party. She was accompanied by wife of the party's vice presidential candidate, Hajia Nana Shatima. Correspondent Habida Lawal has details.
There is renewed agitation for more inclusion of women in politics and governance in Nigeria. Watchers of political events in the country believe this is justifiable considering the low representation of women in elected political positions since the inception of the present democracy. To ensure that more women are included in politics and governance, some legislators recently called for reserved seats for women in the 2 chambers of the National Assembly.
And also, Our Excellency.
It is why the wife of the APC presidential flag bearer, Oluremi Tinubu, and the wife of the vice presidential candidate, Nana Shatima, are paying a visit to the party's national headquarters. They are here to intimate the party of the activities as the women wing of the campaign council.
The incoming administration will do is to consolidate on all the work that our President Muhammadu Buhari, is doing. And I can tell you, I'm not a novice in government. We've been there working. I can assure Nigerians the good work and the foundation he has laid for any incoming administration.
Commanding the delegation, National Chairman of the party, Abdullah Adamu, says women are the important drivers of any successful campaign.
I want to assure you that whatever you come up with by way of plans to ensure maximum participation in the efforts that we will be making as National Working Committee of our great party, we will stand with you.
We are not novice to this cause. We have served diligently. I can tell you for the past 20 years, I've been contributing my quota to this nation. And I'll be finishing my term in the Senate, in this 9th Assembly. And you will see by the time I give my stewardship report, which is also in the making, Nigerians will be amazed the work and the contributions I've made.
According to the Independent National Electoral Commission, party campaigns will kickstart by 28th of September. Habida Lawal, TVC News, Abuja.
All right, thank you for staying with us. It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on Nigerian newspapers. And we begin with The Punch. Queen Elizabeth's death at 96. World leaders pay tributes. Britain mourns. Charles become king. Queen Elizabeth's death at 96. World leaders pay tributes. Britain mourns. Charles becomes king. You find the details on the front page of the Punch newspaper. We move now to the front page of the Daily Trust. Queen Elizabeth II, 1926 to 2022. Buhari, world leaders pay tributes. Life and times of longest-serving monarch. Her ties with Nigeria. How King Charles III will be unveiled. The details on the front page of the Daily Trust. To this Nigerian newspaper now, and era ends. Global homage. UK's longest serving monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, dies at 96. King Charles steps in. PM Truth's death tragic, we'll miss her. You find the details on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper. To the Leadership newspaper now. By Elizabeth, after 70 years on the throne, Britain's longest-serving monarch dies at 96. Details on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. To the Daily Times now, moving away from the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. PDP neck calls Wike's bluff, passes vote of confidence on Ayu. Come out to deny telling me Ayu resign. Wike challenges Atiku. Says asking BOT chairman to resign an insult. The issue is national chairman. Wagbara replaces Jibrin as BOT chair. Tambuwal to lose seat as chairman, government forum. All right, you find all of the details on the front page of the Daily Times. To the front page of the blueprints now. Ayu survives. Wike Boyle says next confidence vote insulting. Pro-Wike NEC members absent. Ex-Senate President Wagbara replaces Walid as BOT chair. NEC fails to appoint presidential campaign DG. All right, the details on the front page of the blueprint. And still talking about the PDP crisis, the Nation newspaper now, are you not Jibrin should resign, says Wike. PDP NEC passes vote of confidence in chairman. All right, Mike?
Oh, yeah. Let me begin with the Nigerian News Direct here. That is where we start from on my side of the table. Now, PDP crisis is the focus here, and he says Sambo Atiku, 395 other NEC members pass vote of confidence in Ayu. That's what it says on News Direct. From there, let's go to First News. PDP rumble. Ayu stays on after all. Survives Wike, others. Shenanigans. Gets party next vote of confidence. That's the National Executive Council's vote of confidence. That's what First News has. And from there, let's go to Nature News. It says climate change. Nigeria gets $700 million as World Bank disburses $31.7 billion. All right, Nigeria gets $700 million from the World Bank. From there, let's go to Business Day, which is the last one. Experts outline ways to unlock Africa's platform economy. All right, experts outline ways to unlock Africa's platform economy. That's what Business Day has. Veronica.
Right. Gentlemen, just yesterday we were talking about the National Executive Council meeting that the PDP was going to hold. And, you know, a lot of Nigerians were looking forward to the outcome. And if you look at the front page of the Daily Times, to use their choice of words, it seems the outcome, the NEC called Wike's bluff, so to speak, with the vote of confidence passed on Ayu. And I wonder if that's how you see things, Sam.
I think that what happened yesterday was to be expected.
Right.
The PDP is in the catch-22 situation with Ayu. You remove Ayu, there's problem. You keep Ayu, there's problem. Why don't you just keep Ayu? And the point is they have to deal with the perpetual problem with the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, who also went on a tirade yesterday saying that the party was showing, a northern bias against the south, that the party was now showing a very hegemonic temperament, which is against the whole concept of a Nigerian nation and the constitution of the PDP. He also says that he met with Atiku, called him the candidate during the convention that is after he emerged. I said, Atiku, work with me. You work with me, Ayu must go. So he's trying to hold Atiku to his own assertion, whether he can live up to the integrity of his own lips, of his own assertion. And that is where we are, because the party's crisis before the vote of confidence doesn't seem to have changed. So the story is, where does PDP go from here? How do you manage
the
a
situation.
Wike who is always a resurgent force within the party? And don't forget, as we have always mentioned, that Wike is not alone in this contention. We have Lagos PDP with Bode George. We have Ayo Fayose. We have Sheyi Makinde. We have Governor Ekpeazu. We have Otom. We have a few others who have not spoken, who in the South are not at one with what is going on. The question is there an overarching solution to this problem? It doesn't seem there is. You know, it looks like the place where the situation should be solved is also causing problems. That to paraphrase Shakespeare, he said, when correction lies in the hand that committed wrong, to whom shall we complain? So that's the problem. Where are we going?
Exactly.
You cannot solve it.
Right. Now, the point there is, in politics, ego is a very strong currency, because that ego is what sometimes perceptively is seen as your currency. And in a situation where egos are trying to, smart and outsmart each other, rubbing off, you will see some friction here and there and some fireworks. Now, the PDP is in a little fix right now.
Little.
Trying to, I'm trying to use the word very carefully.
Downplayed, yeah, okay.
Now, the PDP is trying to resolve the issues so that we can bring Wike on board. Also, it doesn't want to be seen to be succumbing to Wike. So it's a difficult place to be in, the dilemma as far as that is concerned. But if you hear what Wike is saying, or what he has been saying, is that we had an agreement from day one. This is about fairness, it's about justice, it's not about any personality, it's not even about me. He has said all of those things. It's about fairness. But somebody has to stand to say, no, we all agreed on this, let us stand by it. That is what he is saying. However, it can be interpreted from different perspectives because it's politics. And then if you listen to Article 2, he said that these issues will be resolved. Of course, in politics, 1 hour can be so much, 1 day can be so much. And one would say it is not impossible to resolve.
Absolutely.
But the point there is, anybody who is on top of a high horse needs to come down. Because if you sit down and say, okay, what's the issue? Let us talk. You will talk. That is the thing in politics. But you need to be able to come down from a high horse first. To be able to, you have to stoop to conquer.
He also said yesterday that the Atiku group are in cahoots with somebody in the presidency, in Aso Rock, who has promised them that they are going to win the election, that it was going to work for them. And they said the same person also tried to impose his own candidate, or maybe this clique within the presidency tried to impose their own candidate in the APC primaries, and they failed.
Right.
The question is, who is that person? He said he will mention it. Who is that person?
Wow.
that created this thing. Because we know that the story about the APC presidency, how the whole thing emerged, this story has not been told.
Yes.
A lot happened that many of our reporters do not even know in this generation. I mean, people know that even some governors in the north came together. They banded together. 5 of them went to the president and said, we want it to go to the north. They said so. They wanted it to go to the north. And the president said, bring your list. And then they brought their own list. And there's all 5 of them. And then the president said, no, these people are not serious. I don't want to go into more details about it.
Very good.
But this is to show to you that there's so much story in it, that there were cliques working within the presidency during the APC primaries that failed. And it also shows that there are people who are desperate to make money from ambitious people who want to be president of this country by trying to tell them that they own this country and can decide who will become president. And from what we saw in the APC primaries, God is stronger than every cricket.
I like that one. Wike is saying that he's still going to fight till the very end. Yes. And I'm wondering what is left for him to fight for, or what he can achieve with that fight, seeing that it seems that the party is moving on.
No, the party is moving, but the party is not moving. The reason why I said that is because, of course, the activities are going on. The NEC meeting held yesterday without him and his...
but they couldn't come up with a campaign DJ.
Yes, but however, the point there is, the stronghold of the PDP, South-South remains the strongest hold of PDP so far. All the 6 states, only Cross River State is not of the PDP in the South-South geopolitical zone. And then the Southeast is also in addition. However, the Southeast, as much as it has its own idea and where it is going, but you also know that Wike and the South-South has great and immense influence on how the Southeast is going to go, especially when you know that Governor of Abia State, Ikpeazu, is a close ally of Wike. So the point there is that the party is moving on, but you cannot say it is totally moving on also, because it's still a long way to the election. Anything can happen. And for any political party that wants to win election, the smallest votes, the smallest boy by the side, the smallest girl, you must get them on board. Because if you allow them go to become that disgruntled and they move and you think, well, how much clout do you have? You'll be shocked when the days come. So the issue there is, this time around, the best thing is to gather everybody together. All the people who are disgruntled, everybody who is not happy, bring them on board. Do everything within your powers to bring them back on board. If you underrate anybody, it's at your peril.
How do you go to war with a divided house?
That's it.
That is the problem.
Yeah.
How do you go to war with a divided house? Because you don't only need what we call structure. And structures are usually about people who have strong men in various pockets.
Yeah.
That is, these are the people who rally locals to the party. That's why they say that all politics is local. It's local, but when it's national politics, it's an aggregation of all the local politics into a team, so as it were, a war, just like going to war. You have platoons, you have divisions, you have battalions, and all of them. They all have leaders. Whether it's the sergeant at one level, whether it's a lieutenant colonel at one level, whether it's a colonel at one level, a captain at one level, they all work together as a team. But if there is a chink, or what they call the missing link, how do you now move together as a force to go and fight? That is the dilemma. But what Atiku has been quoted once to have said, that they could win without Wike. And Wike said, I will flog them. So let's see what will happen. Let's see what will happen, because
how intense to flog them.
But ultimately, for the sake of our democracy, we wish that PDP puts its house in order, so that Nigerians can see what APC is offering, what PDP is offering, what Labour Party is offering, and make the choices.
Yes, talking about Labour Party that you said.
Yes.
You know, the strongholds of PDP are contending with Labour Party. Rather than think about how to handle Labour Party, not even APC in the South or Southeast, you are still fighting within yourself.
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Let's leave the conversation here now and wait to see what happens at the end of the day. National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party passes vote of confidence on Iyorchia Ayu as its national chairman, as Governor Nyesom Wike blows hot. We will speak with two PDP stalwarts after the break. Stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. The national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Senator Iyorchia Ayu, yesterday got a confidence vote from members of the party's National Working Committee after weeks of speculations about whether or not he should retain his seat. The NWC took the decision at its 97th general meeting in Abuja, but their decision did not go down well with Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike, who insists that Ayu must step down. PDP's presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, and Governor Wike have been at loggerheads over the agitation for Ayu's removal as the party's chairman. There are fears that the divisions in the party will affect its chances of clinching power come 2023. With us in the studio is a PDP chieftain, Adetokunbo Pierce. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning.
Let's get your impressions of the decision of the NEC with regards to the vote of confidence it passed on Iyorchia Ayu.
Well, there were issues that were being discussed, and I thought that the key concern of Governor Wike was that there should be balance between the north and the south of the party in terms of these leadership positions. Mm-hmm. And I felt that what happened yesterday was a compromise toward that equity, whereby the BOT chairman from the north stepped down and is replaced by former Senate President Nwagbara from the southeast. Yes. And also, Governor Tambuwal has stepped down as the chairman of the PDP Governorship Forum. Those two step downs now allows for the South to occupy those positions. So I'm thinking that Governor Wike, I thought, would have been satisfied. So for me, I think that the party is moving in the right direction of reaching an agreement on this issue of balance within the party.
But he thinks that it's an insult because there was an agreement, initial agreement before now, that if a northern person emerges as the candidate of the party, then Iyorchia Ayu has to step aside. Why is it so difficult to reach that agreement or fulfill that agreement?
When you talk about agreement, who was party to that agreement? That's what he said. Hmm. Also, the law is made for the benefit of man, not man for the benefit of the law. Sometimes you want to go in one direction, circumstances now compel you to go in another direction. What you have to do when you get to that point is to talk about compromise. Whatever happened before now, where we are now, we feel that we have a choice between two evils. This is the point you made earlier, that if we tell the national chairman to step down, compel him to step down, in the first place, if we compel him to step down by our constitution, which Wike is always referring to, the vice chairman North will take his place, because according to the constitution, which is what happened with Secondus, if he is stepped down, then automatically the vice chairman of the national vice chairman from his zone will step up. So that's one problem. So we don't want that. So he will complain again that a northerner has stepped in. So when will Wike be satisfied? If he is hell-bent on what I think is the personal issues involved here, there must be some problem between them, individual problems that they don't trust. Are you? And that's why they want him out.
What is that?
We have a democracy, by the way. A committee has met, National Executive Committee, highest body of the party. They have taken a vote on this matter. In my opinion, this is what PDP does. We always go to democracy. Commitment of the majority to an issue. Let's move on. Wike is one man. And by the way, all this talk about South-South is going to go, we are not in a crisis to that point. If you go into the communities, in the community, talk to members of the party in the community, the voters in the community, you will find that they don't care about all this. They want all this thing to move away. Everybody now thinks this is getting too much. You are distracting us from what we are supposed to do. Let the candidate come around and talk about issues, what you will do for Nigeria. And Atiku, I'm glad he's been going around wherever he goes. He talks about restructuring, how he's going to solve the problem of electricity and security. That is what we want to do. So if one person is always going around talking about, I will pepper them, I will flog them, and they're fine, come on, this is so childish now.
But is it not true that the real problem is not really the issue of whether Tambo was stepping down or the BOT chairman? So those areas are not zoned. Those areas are specifically not zoned. What is zoned in the party is the party chairman, and that there was an agreement that the two most important, the two pivotal positions are the presidential candidate and the party chairman. And if you have both from one region, you are actually kicking the face of the constitution of the party, and you're also acting out of bad faith. So the issue has been happening, and if you have been listening, he has not been emphasizing party BOT chairman. He never even mentioned chairman of the governors, PDP governors. He never mentioned those as a factor. He has been talking about IU. Remember how you called him? He said they are children. That's what he said. And he said, you're a prodigal father.
That was months after he continued to hammer everybody. That is wicked.
No, he was talking about IU.
I know.
He was talking about IU.
I'm saying IU made that comment.
Yes.
Months after a lot of insults and attacks from Wiki. So now, by the way, you see, the dilemma we have in PDP is that all of these people were elected through a democratic process. That's the problem. We never zoned the presidency. Never. Everybody participated in the election. And Atiku won the election. And Wike came second.
That was the problem. That was the problem that Wike is saying. That
should have been
people have not mentioned. He's saying that there was de facto zoning because of what happened with Sokoto governor at the last end of the election saying, I turned all my votes to Atiku. He was saying that that created a de facto zoning. What do you say about that?
Okay, look, let's be fair. Let's be honest, truthful. In any campaign, any election, these things happen. That people will tell you they're going to vote for you, they're going to support you. Somebody else goes behind and negotiates with them. And they decide they're not voting for you anymore, they're going in this direction. That is democracy. That is what it is. That's what happened. Why would Wike assume that because Tambuwa is from the north, is the reason he's decided Atiku from the north? If he thinks that way, then he is part of the problem in Nigeria in terms of tribal politics. That's not what happened. The man voted where he wanted to vote. That's it. That's the end of the story.
But it turned out that he gave his vote to a fellow northerner.
What does that mean?
Excuse me.
That's the problem.
He said that why is it that is Wike's
so
problem? I'm not Wike. I'm saying that's the same. Why did he give it to a fellow northerner? That's what he's saying. I don't give it to a southerner, and that because wait, hold on.
Why didn't you give it to him?
Yes, that's what he's saying.
That is total rubbish. Total crap. Anybody who thinks that way is an insult on the democratic process and is actually polluting the polity in Nigeria. Any child, any young person listening to that kind of talk is suffering from abuse from those leaders. You don't talk like that. Okay. You have an election. Somebody decides to go and support somebody.
We have a second
you are saying he should have supported you. Is that not the same thing as a Miloko?
Yeah, he said no. He said he should go to the south.
We have a second guest.
You are going to tell somebody
via Zoom
who he should vote for.
Right.
Huh?
Let's quickly bring in our second guest, who is in Abuja. PDP chieftain Catch Ononuju joins us via Zoom. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on The Breakfast Show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm certain you have been listening to the conversation in the studio, the reaction to yesterday's decision by the National Executive Committee to who passed a vote of confidence on Iyorchia Ayu, and I wonder what your impressions are.
You call it a vote of confidence. I don't think so. Nothing of such happened. Because normally in PDP rules, you must do accreditation. Remain, the dignitaries must go outside, and it must only be members of NEC that should pass the vote of confidence. What happened yesterday, all the with the dignitaries were all in the hall. That cannot be called a PDP NEC vote of confidence.
All right. Catch Ononuju, it seems there is a network challenge, and we'll have to come back to the studio so that that can be resolved. But let's get your reaction to what Catch Ononuju just said. He said it's not a PDP NEC vote of confidence.
Well, I was not at the meeting. I was not told by anybody who was at the meeting that this is what happened. I got a report yesterday that you just read that they had decided that the BOT chairman will step down, Balmoral as the chairman of the Governors Forum will step down. We are talking about equity. No, it's not one individual, no one position. We're talking about north-south balance. And that balance is taking place now. Maybe one or two others will step down so that we will have balance. That is what it's all about. So I don't know what happened there. If he was there and he witnessed that, then he's going counter to the report that came out of the meeting. I don't think anybody can have any other report, you and I, and him, except the report that came from that meeting. That's what we have to deal with.
He's saying that there was no accreditation and that people had to have gone out before this, and it's only NEC members that were supposed to have done it. Well, from a news report today, it said there were about 395 people who voted. NEC members are not that many, and so on and so forth. So if that is the case, what would you say? Was it that it was an illegal decoronation of
the party decides on how it will conduct its sessions. I don't know what happened. All I know.
But does the party constitution state clearly how it should hold its meetings?
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
No, but it does. There's always a process.
Listen. This is what I'm saying. To me, we shouldn't be discussing this issue because we haven't had this kind of report from the party. Because there are people in that group. Not everybody was going to support the decision. Therefore, the supporters of Governor Wike's position would have also been there. When they give their report contrary to this, then it becomes an issue for discussion. As it is now, to me, this shouldn't be our discussion because we don't know what happened. I don't know where he's getting his information from.
All right. We'll get back to him now. I hear he's on now via phone. Catch Ononuju, are you there?
Yeah.
Are you there?
I am here. Yes, I am here.
Okay, if you could just speak a little louder. We need some sort of clarity with regards to your statement about the fact that the meeting held yesterday was not a NEC decision with regards to the vote of confidence that was passed. There's some clarity with regards to the process that it went through. Were you at that meeting?
Yes.
In what capacity?
The man speaking, it did not, wasn't there. Anybody who was there should understand it.
He is asking that in what capacity were you there?
I was there as a member of the PDP. Normally we go in there and we would stay, and when the time for accreditation comes, those who are not members of NEC are normally supposed to walk out of the hall. It didn't happen yesterday. At the time when Elumelu was speaking, the cameramen were there. NEC never holds this meeting or his votes with the cameramen there, with the press corps inside the room, with the PAs and SAs and those who escorted the dignitaries to the meeting in there. It has never happened before. It happened yesterday. And as Elumelu was talking, and he then ran into that vote of confidence. To tell you this is premeditated, and it wasn't really that as a product of the meeting. And everybody who was inside that hall, they all started, yay! That was then, after which non-accredited members, photographers, pressmen, and others now left. We will never do our vote of confidence or voting while pressmen are inside the hall, PAs and SAs are inside the hall. That's what happened. Find anybody who was there with camera and you will see that at the time when that happened, when Elumelu was speaking, these people that I mentioned are inside. And that has never been ever done under the PDP constitution. For the NEC to vote, accreditation must be done. You accredit first, after accreditation, then non-accredited members must leave the hall. And this means non-PDP members like SAs, PAs, pressmen, photographers who are inside the NEC hall must leave the NEC hall before the vote of confidence is done. Only by NEC members. That did not happen. Let the gentleman speaking tell me he was inside the hall and that what I'm stating is not true. So I don't know why he will call that that. We have established as a division in the party. The fact that members of the Southern Caucus walked out the previous day at the NWC meeting, but the judge went to caucus meeting and found that it was only Southerner inside the caucus meeting. So this simply tells you things are wrong. Even at the place where we had the meeting yesterday, how many people came? 3 governors, 1 deputy governor. Who were these governors? Governors from the north. The ones who came from the south was Bayelsa governor. So tell me, where are the governors? You can't tell me you are now having a vote when there are divisions and people refuse to attend meetings. And so you now want to make up numbers. You bring in your PA, your SAs, the photographers and all who came with you, and you said there's vote of confidence. That is a joke. All that judge did was simply to expose the fact that there is a crisis in the party. Now, if there is a crisis in the party, how do you deal with it? Very simple. It is a crisis based on a request for inclusion. Inclusion by the Southern Caucus of the party. The Southern Caucus of the party is a legitimate organ of the party. If they have an issue, you will ask, what is the problem? And then in this case, it is the issue of inclusion. You want to hold presidential candidate and still hold the chairman of the party in the same zone? No, it doesn't work that way. Let us be honest about this issue. You cannot have peace in any organization if there is no equity. There is no way you can have equity without justice. And if you don't have those things, you cannot have peace. PDP has this crisis. So instead of parroting any kangaroo show of support for a chairman, sit down and say, what is the problem? The Southerners want inclusion. Good. Now you can make some people resign yesterday of some very unimportant positions. No. The positions we are talking about are 2. Position of presidential candidates brought about by the insistence of the Northern Caucus that they must run, that Buhari disappointed them, that Buhari promised them he would do 1 term when they will form they will use the FPDP and form a national coalition called the APC. Buhari was better to power. So Buhari's betting to power means the North will have 8 years, 2 terms, and Buhari's own has finished. The same members of the Northern Caucus of the PDP still came and said they will take the PDP presidential slot. And that was why the Southerners said, no, in the history, in the name of sharing, if the North has done 8 years, it is the turn of the South to also do. This is where this argument is. So let people understand, when you try to undermine protocols of equity in an organization, there are lots of reactions that will come from them. And when those reactions come, how do you handle them? Now we are seeing there's a problem. The PDP is having a problem reacting to the consequences of the action by those who displayed inordinate ambition. Let us not pretend we are a human society. What you're having now from the Southerners is the same thing that we saw in 2015 when the Northerners insisted that with good luck having served till 2014, that the rotation to go to the North. When good luck still used his influence of being an incumbent to stay on the ticket, the same Northerners, the same people, not that it's a new class of human beings, no, the same people you saw today that formed the MPDP were the same ones who left, led by Atiku, and went to form APC as the national coalition, which bettered Buhari. Now, if you insist and you have gotten the presidential slot, as the chairman said, that if a candidate emerges from the North, he will step down. That's all we're asking. That in the case of equity, let the Southern Caucus be accommodated by the chairman stepping down and the chairmanship position be ceded to the Southerners. That is all. So it is possible you can go behind to find people in the South that can be compromised, and they will come and start telling you, I am with you, I am with you. No, what we run is a representative democracy.
Can you hear me?
We are individuals representing the geographies where we come from. That's why it is taken from the principle of inclusion, known in our laws as federal character. If you do not respect that inclusion,
can you hear me?
Based on representation,
hello?
You will have problems. The PDP is currently having that problem. That the Northerners now want to do 8 years on broken rule.
Catch, can you hear us?
That is at the very core of what we are doing.
Can you hear us, Catch?
We have found out there's an agenda. We are insisting that the Northerners should hand over the reins of chairmanship of the party to the Southerners.
Right, Catch, we need to cut into your line of thoughts. Can you hear us now?
I can hear you, yes.
Very good. Now, I wanted to ask you the question. You are implying that the stepping down of Jibrin as party BOT and the stepping down of Tamboa are, according to the party rules, illegal. And if that is the case, what would you guys do about it? Is there going to be a legal recourse?
There's nothing wrong with any action. Why I'm telling you this is, they stepped down, understanding that our complaints of them trying to also repeat in the PDP what we saw started in the APC while they were there with Buhari. So where our fear is, let this thing not repeat in the PDP. That's why you see us raising our voices. We seek a party that includes the aspirations of all sections of Nigeria. No matter the name you call the party, whether it is APC or PDP or Labour, it's their Nigerian political vehicles. And we are saying whatever political vehicle Nigeria is existing, Nigerians from all parts of the country should align with the inclusive principles of the federal character be seen to be carried along. In this case, the Northern Caucus in the PDP don't seem to respect that there should be a balance that should carry all parts of the country. Now that we have raised our voices, they have now asked the BOT chairman, whose tenure is supposed to expire in the next 4 or 5 months, to step down. And those are not consequential positions. Those are cosmetic positions. The consequential positions are the position of the presidential candidacy and the chairman of the party. And that's what we, the Southerners, are asking. If we cannot have the presidential candidate slot, let us have the chairman of the party. If anybody thinks that is too much for us to demand, let him explain why it is too much for us to demand inclusion. And we are now saying, if the presidential candidate, Elijah Atiku Abubakar, is truly the unifier that he says he is, he should forget what the Hawks are telling him and act to include the aspirations of the Southern Caucus in what the party is doing. That way we'll feel included. So if they're not think by giving us some insignificant positions like the BOT chair, those are advisory bodies. And the governor's forum position, those are advisory bodies. What we are asking is let there be pro rata honest sharing of executive positions. Executive position, presidential candidate, executive position, chairmanship of the party. Not powerless advisory bodies. We are asking for inclusion. Very simple. And we are members of the Southern Caucus of the PDP.
All right.
That's who we are.
Let's get the reaction of our guest in the studio now, Catch. Catch is saying, is it too much for the South to demand inclusion? Because it says this decision by the party is undermining protocols of equity, principles of inclusion and representation.
You know, the problem with Southern leaders is that they don't do their homework, they don't prepare, and they lose elections. This position, this issue now, we can see where it's coming from. It's coming from the basics of the election of Atiku Abubakar. Don't forget, it was an election. You don't prepare for election. You know, for months, maybe 9 months, my leaders from the South, governors, kept telling me we should hold back because they knew that all the time I had declared my support for Atiku Abubakar because of his position on restructuring. I've written several essays, published in several newspapers on restructuring. He has written essays. He has given lectures. So we've been exchanging ideas. So the only way to save Nigeria, we have to reorganize this thing. We have to look at the recommendations of the 2014 Commonwealth and see how much of that we can include to change this nation, to improve security, improve the economy, good governance. Do you know that this rotational presidency is one of the recommendations of the 2014 Commonwealth? Let these things become law. Then we will have...
So if he wants rotational presidency, why didn't he start with maybe an example?
Who?
Atiku.
No.
By saying, no. Why can't he serve as an example? If I want rotational, then I should have said, okay, now that the president Buhari is a full and 8 years, is 8 years, then by my own personal example, I would say, no, I won't run. But that's not what he did. No. What he did, what he did was that he ran and he said, no, there should be no zoning. That's against restructuring. He said there should be no zoning, that it should be left open.
Look.
Is that not hypocrisy?
No. This is what I said. These things have to become law. And therefore, everybody will be held to it. You cannot expect one individual to become the law. You understand?
No,
but there are many people...
If your morals support something...
The individual is not alone. We have not come to a point. We have to get into government.
What a personal example.
Personal example don't show personal example. Is to not to run for an office that you believe...
Yeah, because the principle should be bigger than the person.
What's the principle?
But what he's saying, the principle is that it should be rotated.
So
he wants election. To do, this is the question I asked the PDP, I asked the PDP spokesman the other day. Do you want to do the wrong thing first and then do the right thing later?
Listen. Rotational presidency is also elected presidency. Is it not? We're not going to say, listen, you're not going to say, I've been in office now, then it's going to be the turn of so-and-so. There's still going to be an election. Therefore, let us have this thing as law and let us elect. The problem with these people who are complaining now, the North, is they have not been able to come together. As I was saying, for more than 9 months, I was waiting for my leaders who said, don't go and be promoting Atiku anymore. I said, okay, we are bringing a leader. Yeah? A candidate, a Southern candidate must win this election. I said, okay, go and bring somebody. Then they brought Wiki. Good. And they lobbied and they fought and they fought and they went for election. Unfortunately, they didn't win. Look, that's the bottom line here. We should just go ahead.
But Wiki has come out to say that's not the issue.
You cannot change the election.
In such contest, there's a winner and there's a loser. He has come out to say it clearly.
Yes.
So that is not his problem, according to him.
That is what he says, but I'm talking about the reality, what's going on now.
Are you in his mind?
All this argument, well, I'm looking at what he's saying. I'm analyzing what he's saying. You are not in anybody's mind, but
no,
you quote everybody. You are so intelligent.
I'm not about
when you talk, people see the sense in what you are saying because you've done proper analysis. That's the same thing I'm doing now. Wiki, the way he's going on now, everything this gentleman was saying, is also about that election, that a northerner won the election. A northerner was the president, the chairman, national chairman, also won an election. That election was also contested. So if these people have won election, you have a problem. You must go ahead, accept the result of the election, and let's move on. The changes that can be made are the ones that are being made now. The BOT chairman, voluntarily, these people step down.
Wiki did not say he didn't accept the election. He said he accepted the election, but he knew that they used the law against justice. You know, that's possible. That's what they do. You know, Soro said, he said that no one, that they tell me a law, there's no law that is more just. In other words, justice is not about law. Justice is about people. And they don't have justice. He said they don't have justice. He said, okay, I haven't lost the election. I haven't lost the election. He says he accepts it. But he says that there's an agreement that we cannot have a chairman of the party and the what do you call it, and the candidate from the same party. And that now that Atiku has emerged the party candidate, then Ayu should step down. That Ayu himself, Atiku himself told him that I will come, work with me, but as you work with me, this man must, Ayu must step down.
That Atiku told him that?
That Atiku told him that. He said so.
So you are not in his mind, right?
I'm not.
I'm not in his mind.
I want Atiku to come out and say that it's a lie.
I don't believe him. You may believe him.
I'm not saying I believe him. I'm saying this is what he says.
He said.
That's what he said.
Yes.
Personally, I doubt it. But even I doubt it. I'm not going to say even if he said so. I don't believe it and I doubt it. But the issue here is this. He may say it's not about the election, but he keeps saying Tambuwal betrayed him. Keep saying
the Southern governors betrayed him. He said so too. He says so. And then the other question I want to ask you.
He doesn't know the meaning of democracy.
The question I want to ask you.
He doesn't know the meaning of democracy.
I agree with you that this democracy, you can vote even against your father. You know, the question I want to ask you is that why did it take Wiki for even the PDP to decide that Jibrin had to step down and Tambuwal had to step down? Was it not also a realization that there was a North heavy, that they are making a PDP, how do I put it now? That rather than have rather than have a national PDP, they are having a northern PDP.
Look, the problem we have in this country is the fundamental structure of the country. There are 19 states in the north. There's 17 here. Have you seen the printout of NEC registration? The numbers. The North has about 4 million votes more than the South. This is where our problem is. Let us go into this election, get into government, and restructure this country. This problem will never... Let me tell you something. This issue of North-South, this is where the problem is. We always lose election in this North, in the South, because we don't think, we don't plan, Do you know that the 8-point agenda of Sadano of Sokoto in 1953 is what we are talking about now as restructuring? Regionalization, decentralization of government. Now we are coming back to it. Our leaders, instead of talking about going into government to restructure this country, they are talking about, it's my turn. It's my turn.
But how do you restructure?
Is saying.
Hold on.
It's my turn.
Wait, how do you restructure the party when you have not restructured yourself? When you have not restructured yourself.
We need to get back to Catch on Onuju because of the limited time we have. Catch, are you still there? We need your reactions to the statement coming from the studio talking about moving on as it is, that what has happened, the fundamental issue is that convention where Atiku Abubakar came up as the candidate, and the fact that Wike is feeling betrayed, so to speak.
That is wrong. I think those who say Wike are wrong. They are fraudulently trying to deceive the public. As you've heard me talk to you now, it's all about inclusion. We have South and North. Our parties, constitutionally, is foundationally built upon zoning. That's why if a chairman comes from the North, the deputy will have to come from the South. If the secretary comes from the South, the chairman will come from the North. That's how we have always behaved. What we are noticing now is that some members of our party have learned what happened in the APC, where President Buhari employed nepotism as policy, and that is what everybody believes has destroyed our once progressive nation. Now, if our members in the PDP will also copy such a thing, it makes sense for us to now start raising our voices. As for the gentleman telling you he did this, he did that, he didn't do nothing. What he's just trying to tell you is that he's one of the problems the country has. We have a representative democracy. You have not waited for your leaders to move on. You've already started writing articles for Atiku. For Atiku for what? How can you write for Atiku when you know Buhari is about to finish his 8th year? It is people like this that damage this country. Because when they tell them the Northerners they are willing to be used, that is how the problem comes. And then people will go and give them peanuts and then have them pocketed. And when someone like me who speaks for the interest of the South, because we run a representative democracy, raises my voice, they will not bring such people who do not represent anybody by themselves. And that's what they call stomach infrastructure. This is the problem. It is not the structure of the country. Everybody understands. Okay? We have always done things north-south. We have always done things considering our faith, Christianity, Islam. We've always done things. Now we have 6 geopolitical zones. These things were done simply to guide us so that we should practice that inclusion, which was done to carry the North along, because the North was considered to be educational disadvantage. What we now have is a new set of boogeymen from the North who don't care. They now want to cancel it simply because of their own personal interest. We are seeing something also similar very much to an agenda. And that's why we're saying if it is an agenda like we're seeing, we must do things to protect the interests of our people in the South. We want the chairmanship of the party.
All right.
This issue has only just started. It will not stop. Mark it. The fact that the Northerners understood that we have a case and they start telling people to step down tells you that they realize that something is wrong. As they rightly stated, it is becoming a North-heavy party, and that is not done by mistake. No, it was done intentionally, and now there is a complaint. People are starting to resign, and we're saying no. What resignation should occur are the executive positions. Executive position of presidential candidate, executive position of PDP chairman, not advisory positions of BOT.
So the president should
do not have any order.
Catch, we have to leave the conversation here with you now. That was the PDP chieftain, Catch Ononuju, speaking with us from Abuja. But your final words on this, because
and also talk to the fact that your party leader here, Bode George, himself, well, he found himself the only southerner among them, the only person for Southwest. I think the only governor there we can see now was Bayelsa governor. The rest are not there.
Maybe they didn't have time to attend, maybe they were not around. But the point is this, from head to toe in this PDP, from national chairman to deputy national secretary, all zoned. Balance between North and South in our party. I can show you the list. Everything is North and South, balanced, as we do every year. It is only when the president has emerged as president that we now begin to talk about imbalance of the national chairman, as the national chairman cannot be from the South, and the president from the South, not the candidate. He has not become president yet. So keep that in mind, and that's the way most people are thinking. And by the way, more than a year ago,
I remember clearly
for stories. Governor Wike has always been of the opinion that he cannot support anybody who he believes will get the support of Buhari. I don't know where he got that from.
We have to wrap it up.
That's another issue.
Totally.
So goodwill is what's important.
Absolutely.
Let us forget these prejudices that you heard before, and let's move on.
We must thank you, PDP Chieftain Adetokunbo Pierce, for your time, as well as another PDP Chieftain, Kachon Onuju, who joined us via Zoom from Abuja. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time on the program.
Right, watching TVC Breakfast. Let's get to our next discussion now. As the world mourns the death of UK's longest-serving monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, who died at the age of 96, royal palaces in London, Windsor and Balmoral have seen huge numbers of people laying flowers and expressing their sadness at the passing of the much-loved Queen, who was on the throne since 1952. A lot of people say it's the end of an era. Right. Joining us now in the Lagos studio is UK solicitor, global affairs commentator, Olufemi Aino. It's nice to have you join us this morning.
Thank you
welcome.
So much for having
Great.
me.
And also on Zoom, we have founder of Ben TV in London, Alistair Shoyode. Alistair, good morning. It's good to have you join us as well.
Good morning. Pleasure to be with you guys.
Great. Now, let's start from the studio here. Femi, you have lived in the UK and know the life of people, Britons generally, and what makes the Queen, the relationship, and how people, relate with the Queen and what she stands for and stood for. Talk to us basically, what makes Queen Elizabeth II unique, maybe differently from the other kings and royals?
Well, there are lots. And if we start going through that, we may not live here until Christmas. But leaving that aside, let me express my condolences to the family and behalf of my fellow Nigerians that her soul rest in peace and rise in glory on Resurrection Day. But this is, her life has been very remarkable. Remarkable in so many respects, in the sense that she lives up to 96 years. She reigned for 70 years. And, as I do, one of the irony of living for so long is that if you live for so long, your life is going to be a mixture of joy and sadness. And she has been through all that. And there is another constitutional issue here, whereby, the British, they are not citizens in the real sense of it, like me and you. They are subjects because they owe their allegiance to the Queen. So that is in one respect. Then you have a Queen who reigned for so long, ready to listen to the people. And even during the turbulent, the annals or the beliefs and what have you, she will come back and be loved by the people. And it is not even limited to that. The United Kingdom flourished a lot under her reign. And at the same time, she saw the country through the war. At the same time, she saw the country through the pandemic. And there is something which is very remarkable indeed. You see, whatever you do today, it can turn out to be history tomorrow, even what you say. Don't forget, the Queen was proclaimed as the Queen in 1952. She was crowned in 1953. And she said something, that no matter how long or short, my life is going to be a life of duty. And remarkably, she did that till the last minute. she passed on 48 hours after meeting the new prime minister. And you cannot form a government without the Queen calling you that, okay, go and form a government. The new prime minister was in the palace. Shortly after she left, her health took turn for the worst. And then she sadly passed away peacefully at Balmoral Castle. And having said in 1953 that her life will be that of public duties, no matter how long and short, she carried out the last public duty when she met the new prime minister. And that is remarkable indeed. And don't forget, as you know, that in United Kingdom, the Queen is the head of state, but she's a ceremonial head of state. And now she carry out that duty, commissioning this, helping charities here and there. So somebody will be greatly missed. And they will be lying in state for 3 days in Parliament, and it will not be possible. You will see a long queue. You will see the subjects coming out to pay their last respect. And for times immemorial, she will not be forgotten. And she was the most famous woman in the world, and she left this enduring legacy, which people will not forget for so many years.
Right.
Alistair, can you hear me?
Hey, I'm with you.
Yes. Tell us about how that woman was able to really navigate a turbulent reign, especially within the family, with all, especially when she talked about Annus Horribilis, that's a horrible year, when you had all these issues of romances that ran against the rock. About scandal of sons and scandal of grandsons and so on. And yet, other than the little patch in response to the death of Princess Diana, this was a long reign of 70 years that was scandal-free. How speak to that paradox?
Well, thank you very much. I think there will be only one queen, and there's no way that any other monarch or sovereign that will do as much as she has done for humanity and for the British people. They love her. I think that's the first word, that the love they have for her is so big, so huge, that whatever it is that she has done, that she has supported her people, that she has provided leadership, is paramount to them, and there is nobody that could have done that. If it is probably it is another person, they won't have been able to survive those crises within that period. Remember, the British people absolutely love the Queen. They love the monarchy, but there are some as well that are totally against the monarchy, even including some of the leaders at present in government. And the beauty about it is that from the first day that she became the Queen, she always said that she wants to serve humanity, she wants to serve the people. And for the people, it doesn't seem like she changed from that ethos, from that first call and that first word that she shared with her subject, that she just wants to serve them. Now, of course, she is the Queen, so her inheritance or her richness and wealth has nothing really to do with her, because it comes with the dynasty of their family, being the subject and being the royal family. So indeed, again, one has to take into account that, yes, the crisis during the death of Princess Diana, the divorce with Prince Charles, is something that was there, is unavoidable. But let's take into consideration that we live in a modern day with technology, which wasn't there in the early days of our time. So almost everything that people do is there for the people to see in public gallery. And luckily enough as well, before she left this world, grandson, Prince Harry, has begun to be reconciled with the family. Is somebody that she loved as well. So when we look into all these things that's happened over the years, one has to give her massive credit. And that is why you see a lot of people already coming to London, going to Buckingham Palace, hanging around and now just waiting to the demise of one of the longest reigning monarch in the history of Britain. And I don't think there will be any other person in 100 years to come that will probably reign for as much as she has. So it's a credit to her. And one beautiful thing that what we have to take into consideration as well is the British people live with history. They live with story. That is something that you have to give credit to them for. And so for the next 1,000 years, the next many years, that God will give us opportunity and other people to be, that record, that history will be there for the British people and for the world at large, especially the Commonwealth. And of course, that again now lead into a new aspect, a new era, which we now have Long Live the King Charles III.
You're watching TVC Breakfast. On this segment, we are looking at the life and times of Queen Elizabeth II, the Queen of England, who passed on yesterday to join her ancestors. And that's how we say in the African continent. And we have guests helping us to make sense of all of that on the program right now. Olufemi Aino is here in the studio, as well as Alistair Shoyode joining us on Zoom from London. Now, Femi, before we went on the break, I was saying that the Queen Elizabeth, had presided over a changing world, you know, from colonialism to agricultural revolution to digital technology, you know, and all of that. And then the world, here we are now in the new world. But talk to us basically, now that she has passed and her era is gone, what is going to change about how we view or how Britain is and how it is going to be?
Well, so many things are revolve around the Queen.
Okay.
And, you know, there are some people who doesn't even know any king or queen than the late Queen Elizabeth. And now that she has passed on, there are so many changes people will notice. Number one, the national anthem is going to change. If you listen to the United Kingdom national anthem, at the end, there's God Save the Queen. You will not hear that again. It will now be God Save the Gracious King. Wow. Because we now have King Charles. And then the currency is going to change, because if you look at the British pounds, you can see this is £1. You can see the Queen head there. Now, it's going to change, and it's going to be the King's head. And this head, I think, is facing my left now, if you look from your position. So once the new currency, the new coins will come in, and then the king head will face the right.
Why is that?
No, that has been the tradition as far back as 1988. Okay. And it's not limited to that. The passport is going to change as well. Because don't forget, this is the British passport. And this is the old one before they exited the European Union. Okay. That's why you can see the European Union. But they left the European Union on 31st of December 2020, if I'm right. Now, they started issuing another passport, which is the black one with Her Majesty the Queen. Now, the Queen is no longer here. So what will happen now, they are going to discontinue that and start a new passport, because we now have a king. So, you know, it's a lot. And the other remarkable thing is that if you look at the highest currency in United Kingdom, now, from 30th of September, the £50, which you are used to, they're going to stop the old one. This is the new one with the Queen head that will come into effect from 30th.
Which was a polymer. It seems
yes,
to be a polymer.
It's the polymer with the Queen's head. And the old one, they will stop using that from 30th of September. That's why this new one is in circulation. But now, this new one will not be in circulation again, because we now have a king. So, you see, there will be so many changes here and there. Even as of yesterday, I was on the phone to the Her Majesty Passport Office, the way we used to call it. It was during that conversation, one of the officers said,
His Majesty.
No, it's now His Majesty. That's how I got to know the Queen has already passed on. Yeah. But leaving that aside, even the medical profession, what they did, the moment they said the Queen was on medical supervision, you see the journalists changing their tie from black to blue, then something tells you that, look, something has happened, or something is going to happen.
Power has changed hands.
Exactly. And unfortunately, you know, by 6:25 or so, the Queen passed on, and there was an official announcement. So we are going to see all this. Her Majesty Passport Office will now be His Majesty Passport Office. And also, you know, in Nigeria, you have the lawyers you call the Senior Advocate of Nigeria. In the United Kingdom,
you have Queen's Counsel.
Queen's Counsel. Now, they will not be Queen Counsel. It's going to be King's Counsel. And also, when you bring public law proceedings in the UK, let's say say you are suing a public body, you only bring that proceeding on behalf of the Queen. Like, take for instance, let's say you want to sue the Sudok Council, for instance. We are going to say the Queen on the application of Mike.
Yes. Yeah.
But now it's going to be the king on the application of this. If you have a criminal case in UK and the police charge you, they will say Regina versus Mike Okoshi. Now, that's going to, there's no Regina again, because Regina is a Latin word for the Queen. It's going to be Rex versus the state. So, Rex, a lot of people are changing their letterheads, and there are a lot of changes. People are now, things hang on the wall are going to be removed because we have a new king. So it's a new.
So you have Rex Britannica.
It is the end of an era.
Rex Britannica.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. This is going to be so expensive for Britain, I must say.
It's going to be very expensive, but at the same time, don't forget, once the Queen is laid in Parliament, she's going to be there for 3 days. The subjects are going to come out. There'll be a lot of people selling souvenirs, this and that, and what have you. So there's still an economic benefit at the same time to her passing.
Alistair, people have spoken a lot about the majesty and the pomp ceremony of the British crown. And we don't forget that there are many people who have a lot of hostile attitude towards the British crown, saying that it is too entitled, and we are living in a Republican age, and we don't need a crown, and that they're expensive, but they have a lot of money though that they spend on their own. There was a debate about a year ago about them being spoiled brats in the British system and so on. Speak to this level of resentment that is still in the system against the monarchy.
Yes, well, as you will agree, there's always opposition in almost every aspect of life. So with the situation in the United Kingdom, and as you rightly mentioned as well, from the grandchildren also, that is where the resentment comes from. People who are not royalists and do not want the monarchy made a lot of noise regarding it. And of course, with the suffering and one has to use the word, the level of poverty in the country as well, demand that people felt that those who are absolutely rich, like the royal family, should reduce the taxpayers' money that they feel they are spending all out. So you will have that. And the situation really now, as highlighted, is now they have a king. That again may sway some of them to recognize that the Queen, who they love so much, has finally departed. And now they have a new subject, a new sovereign, and somebody who on his own right has been making a lot of comment, global comment, but most especially on issues to do with the environment in the United Kingdom, on the green eco system, and contributing to policy idea, policy direction. And he never really shied away from writing what he feels it's necessary for the people, or what he felt is necessary for the government to consider when they begin to implement their policies or write out their policies. So now you have now have King Charles III, who somehow may change a little bit from the prince that he was, and making a lot of contribution on almost every subject that matters and that is close to his heart. He may now withdraw to just focus on being king, being a neutral king, but for the subject of the people. And again, you will agree that he is one subject that has been trained all his life. He's more than 70, but you can agree that for the last 70 years as well, he has been trained to become the king. And almost everybody that knows the royal family knows that he is the next in charge. And of course, now that has happened. He's expected back to London today in St. James to begin to do the discussion of probably the next 10 days of what they have to do. And then before meeting the Privy Council, and then now they will now officially begin to think of the necessary thing to do. And of course, then they will talk about the coronation. But it is going to be very expensive. The United Kingdom is already facing a lot of crisis in terms of economy, energy, and people are demanding government to do things to soften the issues that they're facing. And now Her Majesty the Queen has finally left. So there will be a lot of sadness, a lot of challenges for government, and more so for King Charles. But of course, he is the king, and they will survive.
All right. Now, Femi, let me come to you in the studio. Now, King Charles.
I want to add something.
No, I just want to buttress Dr. She.
Okay.
All right. Look, you now have a new king, and the new king has, even before ascending the throne, let's put it that way, that look, there are some members of the royal family who are not supposed to be receiving money from the sovereign fund, which they've been using to maintain their houses and what have you. And the challenge before the new king is that are you going to keep the United Kingdom united? Because that's an issue. Don't forget, the Scots, there was a referendum. They don't want to be part of United Kingdom any longer.
2014.
The peace process, you know what happened in Northern Ireland and the IRA, the Balmoral, that went on for a very long time until they embraced peace. And that peace process is still very fragile. Now, the queen, the king or the queen, whatever it is, being the head of state, they are not supposed to interfere in government policies. But you now have a new king. Even before ascending the throne, you know, there was a time, I think Dr. She can easily recall this, that there was a time a letter leaked out whereby you have Prince Charles, who is now King Charles, writing a letter to the Prime Minister. And there were a lot of outcry that, no, you as a monarchy, you are not supposed to intervene. And this is a man who is so concerned about the environment. At a point, he was advising us to be talking to plants and doing this and that. So it's not going to be a ceremonial king in the real sense of it. So there will be a lot of issues.
Lots of double consciousness.
Exactly, an interface between the monarchy and the government. But, you know, the government is still responsible to the king anyway, because you cannot start parliament without the king opening parliament. So there are a lot of issues that will resolve, but it's going to be a new era indeed.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was going to ask, what kind of a king will King Charles be? That was a question I was going to ask you earlier. You've touched part of it, so let me go to Alistair on this. Now, Alistair, looking at some of the countries that the Queen was the head of state, you know, Australia, you know, New Zealand, there are so many of these countries. Some of them are looking forward to a new era where they want to become republics and not subjects the way they were anymore. How do you think that King Charles is going to handle this going forward?
Well, I have the privilege of meeting the Queen in the Buckingham Palace. I have the privilege of meeting King Charles as well. And so when you look at these two personalities, without any doubt, you can say he's a carbon copy of his mother in a modern day. And one thing for sure is, even the last Commonwealth that took place in Rwanda, he was there and he spoke glowingly in trying to apologize for things that the Commonwealth may have found United Kingdom or the subject culpable for. So it has taken into account that especially now that the United Kingdom is not part of the EU anymore, they do not need the Commonwealth to reduce in number. And for United Kingdom, England to succeed, Britain to succeed in today's modern economic world that we are in, she needs all her Commonwealth nation, but the wealth now has to be shared for the common interest of all this nation. So him being the new king, without any doubt, I believe that he will extend a new hand of gesture so that as being king, he do not end up losing nation. Rather, if there are new that can join the Commonwealth, I think that would be his fortress. And looking at him, he has networked himself very, very well with nation, with institution, with personalities that are into the corporate world. I believe that he has a challenge, but it's something that he will try as much as possible to make sure, while being King Charles III, he do not end up losing any of the nations that make part of the Commonwealth. And Britain, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, all these countries are united by the ability of what he has been showing that is possible. And of course, again, this is another time for Prince Williams and co. to begin to support him, because he's becoming king not at a younger age, but at a mature, older age. So likewise, there's a possibility that he will not have done as much, he will not cover as much as the queen, but again, in trying to quickly establish his sovereignty, may try as much in the early days to quickly visit as many places as he can to bring that wealth of knowledge and that wealth of unity and common interest within the United Kingdom and for his own sovereignty as a monarchy. So we definitely believe that it's something that he is looking forward to. And as I mentioned, he definitely shared the interest that his hope and belief and life is for the common man to the glory of God.
Yes. Well, on the issue of the Commonwealth is very important. And that's another issue, because some of these countries, they said they don't want to be part of the Commonwealth. And, you know, I think there's one Caribbean country. Recently, there was an election or referendum whether people still want this republican system where the allegiance is to the Queen. And also, there are some countries...
that was the country that King Charles, visited.
Visited recently. I think there was a lot of outcry, people protesting that, look, we don't want the king or queen, anybody again. We just want to be our own country. And it's not limited to that alone. You know, there are some countries in the Commonwealth, they don't even have a Supreme Court. Anytime they have a case, they have to apply to the Privy Council. Yes. We will sit on an appeal. There are some people who are protesting. And also, when you move around, and you see Australia High Commission, British High Commission, Nigeria High Commission. Is the only reason why we call them the High Commission is because they are part of the Commonwealth. Yeah. But if you are going to America now, they say American Embassy, Iranian Embassy, because they are not part of the Commonwealth. So, you know, and there are some countries who are now waiting and said, look, now that we have a new king, this is a new time. This is a good time for us to say we don't want to be part of to sever the relationship and said, look, we don't want to be part of the Commonwealth. So there's going to be a lot of changes in the days and months ahead. Yeah. But in the next 10 days, there's going to be a state funeral on Monday, the 19th of September.
And he's going to give a speech on Friday.
And the new king, I think the new king is going to, the Ascension Council, they are going to sit today, and it's going to be presided by the new king. And then by tradition, the new king has to travel throughout the 4 nations that makes the United Kingdom and come back for the funeral. And after the funeral, then the new beginning will start thereafter. Whether, you know, it's going to be a different approach to things, but I'm still of the belief that it's not going to be the same. And one thing, the important thing, I think Dr. She actually mentioned that briefly. The Queen that passed away didn't have a mentor. But this new king was actually mentored by the mother, and you could see the closeness. Yeah. So it's not it's somebody who is already aware of the trust and court of the whole monarchical system and what they are supposed to do, and it's going to be his own person.
Well, we was going to come to the point that people don't realize, especially going to the history of Britain or history of England, that the monarchy was not always there. And there was one time when they were sacked by the great Oliver Cromwell, when he removed King Charles and then went to the parliament and sacked everybody and saw the maze and said, what do I need with this bubble? And he just scratched everything. He became Lord Emperor of England. And then I think the son, King Charles, who became King Charles II was also sent on exile. So they went away and all of that. But what is really interesting to me is that people do not understand that this same royalty that we are worshipping today was the great sinner of modern era, the great iniquity of modern era. They were the ones behind the slave trade. They started it with James II, and who was at that time Duke of York. They came with the African trade. They came to our continent here. All the disruptions that we have in all the kingdoms in West Africa and on. They took millions of our people there to go and make their wealth. They created the modern world that is tilted against the rest of us. I remember the quote. I was quoting it earlier. I didn't get the full quote from Daniel Defoe, who wrote was that novel Robinson Crusoe. He was a great critic of that time. He said, no African trade, no Negroes. No Negroes, no sugars, gingers, indigos, etc. No sugars, no islands. No islands, no continents. No continents, no trade.
See,
it is a quote that summarizes the modern era, how the blood and treasure of black people created the new world, and they, the monarchy, presided over, they made loads and loads and loads of money. And some of the indulgence, the financial indulgence, the magnificence of decay that they enjoy today are all part of the world that we created for them.
Okay.
And so on. So I want our people to understand this part of our history.
It's very important. Yeah. And I take his point when he said they are not always there. Because you recall that one of the queen cousins actually abdicated the throne in order to fall in love with an American woman. And
Wally Simpson.
Yes, thank you, Wally Simpson. So you see, they have their own fair share of whatever we are going through now, and the division among us and what have you. And that is why when you talk to those people who are anti-monarchy, they have a lot of arguments, and they say, look, we don't want these people, because if you look at their historical background, if you look at what has happened in the past, but notwithstanding, we have to live with it now. Yes. And that does not mean we should not pay tribute to the point that passed away.
All right. Well, we're wrapping up gradually, but let me ask this, create this scenario to you, Alistair. Now, the king, King Charles II, he is of the old generation based on his age. And of course, like you said earlier, he's been trained and groomed and prepared to be king. But we know that anything can change. In the modern world where there's a lot of new things coming on board, is there a likelihood or possibility, just an imagination, that the king might want to maybe just step aside,
abdicate,
after a little while, and allow his son, Prince William, to become the next king?
Of course, anything can happen in the modern day, and subject to how he felt. And of course, I don't think it's something that can immediately happen within a couple of years, but probably even if he stayed until he's 96, he was only just about 23 years on the throne. So it is a very long shot, a very long way. But again, Prince William's young and able, if called upon, will do what he has to do. But again, when we now look at the political system in the United Kingdom, there's just too many crises for the political governance that the people are going through. So it will definitely be good for the king to sustain and survive for a long period rather than anything shorter. Because as I said, you have seen over the last probably 4 years, 3 prime ministers coming in. And now again, maybe in the next 2 years, there could be an election that may likely retain the new one that just emerged, Liz Truss, or the Labour Party can emerge. So the crisis within the political system is not as good as to think about the royalty stepping aside. The people will be really, really marginalized, and being British, being who they are, it will be a more pain on them than at any other given time. So I think it will be good for him to consolidate his position as King Charles III now, give the people new hope. This winter, if you follow the news, people are already crying on the challenges and the crisis they feel they are going to face, especially on the issue of the energy. And energy is very important, especially during the winter, because people need their homes to be heated up. And so there's lack of financial inflow for people's pocket.
All right.
And so anything that he would do to soften and give new hope to the people is, I think, what the British people will be looking forward to.
Okay. We have to leave you here now. Thank you very much, Alistair Shoyode, founder of Ben TV London. Thank you for joining us on this program. We also thank you, Olufemi Aino, for coming on the program as well.
Yes, thank you so much.
And long live the
long live the king.
As you said, that place is high hands on kings. Scepters and crowns must stumble.
All right, I think this is where to wrap up today. We think it's been an interesting day, I must say. All right. We need to let you know that the views and reaction of all our resource persons are their views and have no connection with TVC News. On behalf of all the crew here, including Veronica, we say have a great weekend beginning right away. We'll see you again on Monday. Bye.